very excited to see these two players. In the top right corner of Xenos AA4, we have Visixfan, and in the bottom left corner of Xenos AA4, we have WeirdRat. So two very good players. As we can see in the comments, it's actually pretty interesting. Those two players haven't played against each other in a while. And so they're kind of like, there's this reunion happening where they're talking to each other. So very fun to see between both players.
Aww.
Looks like both of them are opening with this barracks play. So it'll be very curious to see how this goes. Both of them going for the standard raiders. The interesting thing at the beginning of the game is if they decide to get a second raider, because usually there's a distinction between just having one raiders and having one raider and having two, and that distinction is one raider is just devoted to scouting, while two is devoted to scouting and getting pressure, like trying to go for some workers kind of thing. So be very curious to see how this goes, especially in the meta I've seen recently. Recently, most players go for a 2-den opening or a 1-den opening, and then just make constant wolves, and usually 2 raiders is really good against that. So that's the build that WeirdRat's gone for. That's the build that Visixfan has eventually gone for, but he's actually gone for an additional barracks. So he's probably planning on going for a raider, some sort of raider all-in almost, especially if he queues up another one here. Yeah. So he's definitely going for some sort of potential raider cheese. He's not even gotten his second base up and going yet. So, while WeirdRat has gone for a very standard opening of getting his second base, of having his 2 raiders, which he actually may have lost a raider. No, he didn't. Okay, that's good. That is very good. Ooh, hopefully that doesn't stay highlighted. That's rough. I wonder what I can do to make that unhighlighted. No, but as we can see here, WeirdRat is just finding out for the first time that his opponent has gone for these raiders, and WeirdRat needed to do just a little bit better micro in the particular situation. But it's interesting because this is a build that I would go for. Once I got my 2 raiders, I would go for archers and make sure that I could defend against a push like this, and that the fact that those units basically died for free is not very good. And so this is going to be interesting. WeirdRat might have to end up pulling workers to be the front line. This means that these workers are not going to be able to be on that mineral line and getting resources for WeirdRat, which is really going to delay the game. And if WeirdRat's not careful enough at this point in the game, this could easily be game over, especially if this archer dies. Especially if that archer dies. So WeirdRat needs some sort of defenses at his main base to really counter what Visixfan is going for at this point. And so WeirdRat is pulling his workers. He's using his archers to really try and deal with what's going on. It's very important that you don't lose these archers, though. And so with the blink of the raiders, Visixfan has done a very crucial part of killing the archers. Now all that's left is this tower. If WeirdRat can get this tower up, then he may have defended. The only thing I would be worried about is potentially the tower won't be able to cover areas like this, basically because of where it's been placed. But if that tower can cover the worker line, that's good. That means that WeirdRat has successfully defended against this raider all-in potentially. No, he is getting his second base, so that is very good news. That means that Visix is going to be able to do damage or to play an economic game. But as we can see here, as we can see here, the fact that this house was unprotected by this tower definitely means that, you know, Visixfan is going to be able to take a lot of value. He's going to be able to do a lot of damage to his opponent. I hope that house was canceled, actually, because you do get 75% of the resources that you put into it back. Oh, this is interesting. WeirdRat's also gone for a third base. At the same time, Visixfan's gone through a third base. Oh, WeirdRat saying a classic case of first game of the day for me. Oh man, I've had that feeling so many times actually. The first game of the day for me is always the worst game of the day for me because I'm warming up. I still have to deal with micro, and to deal with this kind of aggression from the start, this early aggression, this amount of microing of units from the start of the game is always tough, and it does play a factor, or else I wouldn't even address it. But it does play a factor on your mind, on how well you're able to play, and that kind of thing. Very, very cool. Very cool. And now Visixfan has followed up with bringing archers of his own. So he's going to try and do some consistent damage to some of these buildings here, while at the same time making good economic decisions. Let's go ahead and see if we can look at production here. WeirdRat, it looks like, is going for a church now. So he's making sure to spend all of his resources on tech, on some sort of tech, to try and get him through this part of the game. It looks like priests is what he decided to go for, whereas his opponent is simply going for units that he can, you know, constantly use to really to get as much damage going as possible. And now, you know, Visix is thinking back at home. He's finally taking care of his economy while also assembling forces back at WeirdRat's base, and potentially going for a push here. Like this could be very strong if Raiders blink in twice and just go for as much damage as possible, while we also have WeirdRat. Oh, Visix, you need to blink in and get those archers. That would have been such a nice pickoff right there. If we could have saw Visix blink in twice, really surround those archers, really get a lot of value. But at this point, you know, Visix is not doing a bad job. He's able to kill army units. He's able to get workers. I'm very curious to see how many workers. Oh, actually, WeirdRat's. Oh no, WeirdRat has lost 8 workers. So, so that is important, because that basically means that Visix is going to be ahead for a very, very, very long time. The fact that, well, let's actually go ahead and look at the income here. Oh, actually, it's relatively even. So WeirdRat doing a very good job of. I'm pleasantly surprised by this, actually. The fact that WeirdRat has lost 8 workers, yet is still ahead in the worker count, is very impressive to me. And it's probably because of this third base here that Visixfan doesn't know about. But I'm pleasantly surprised. That really blew my mind. The fact that WeirdRat is going for, or is having to defend against such aggression, and he's still able to keep that economic standing. Very nice by him. Well played. And he's got his priests out. He's going for tech eventually. Usually I go for tech when I'm on 4 bases, but very curious to see when WeirdRat is going to decide to go for his 4th base. Let's go ahead and keep track of what Visixfan is doing now at home. Oh, it looks like he's gone for upgrades of his own. He's got this forge up and running, and it looks like he will be going for upgrades at some point. Looks like the archers are going up against each other at this point. We've got priests giving value to WeirdRat's army composition, but with this critical mass in terms of the archers here, there comes a point where they can just one-shot the archers, and it doesn't become as valuable to have priests. However, WeirdRat doing a very good job of countering, of surrounding his opponent's archers and dealing damage himself. We'll try and just hold this ramp and and really just do a good job of that. That was interesting though, because Visixfan basically decided to trade in all of his raiders for that push. He lost all of his raiders, I would say. Yeah, he doesn't have any raiders left. And now all of Visixfan has at home is 30 workers and 16 archers. That is his entire unit composition. While WeirdRat's got 13 archers, a soldier, and a priest, as well as the same amount of workers as his opponent. So very, very interesting. Like I am thoroughly impressed by the fact that WeirdRat was able to hold off that early aggression, and now because of his economic opening, he's ahead. Oh, looks like Visix also has gone for a church of his own, and now he's got a priest going, as well as getting his defensive upgrades going as well. So this is going to be an interesting fight. I think WeirdRat needs to get on top of this as soon as possible and get into this area where his opponent won't have vision of his army, and then I would have just turned around and fought with the rest of my units. But it looks like WeirdRat is going to prioritize running away, saving as many units as he possibly can. He obviously doesn't want to end the game, this early on to a poorly managed fight. So it looks like he's just going to maneuver his units away from each other. Visixfan has no clue that WeirdRat's archers were right here on this ledge, and now they're moving away from each other as WeirdRat is trying to do some potential run-bys, some potential aggression on an undefended third base. The thing is here, though, WeirdRat is going to have to defend against this main force of his opponents, and he doesn't want to lose these priests for free. That would be very important to not lose them, as they give you a lot of value. And as these units run away, they're just going to get free damage on them. So that'll be very interesting. At the same time, WeirdRat, I didn't even notice that. I should pay a little bit more attention to the map at this point. Oh, but the fact that WeirdRat has gone for this aggression, the fact that WeirdRat has gone for this run-by here on his opponent's third base, has prompted Visix to return, to have to deal with that. Maybe he feels like he won't be able to get enough value attacking his opponent, and thus he has to answer right away. But very interesting. Both these players also going for tech, and the fact that WeirdRat has killed a bunch of houses means that Visix is going to be supply blocked for a while now. But it is very interesting, as we can see here. WeirdRat has basically traded away his army at this point to really be able to deal with that. But it doesn't look like it's going to bother WeirdRat as well. He's mostly focusing on small groups of units that could be able to attack his opponent's bases and just get damage. I don't think he's really interested in fighting this main army at this point. And so as long as he just stays with the contingency forces and forcing his opponent away from his side of the map, then good for him. He's really doing as much as he can. He's also getting some watchtowers to really defend. Very interesting. He's not producing any army units at this particular moment in time. He's just going for archers. So I'm very curious to see how much value, or how well WeirdRat is able to pull this off. Visix is ahead at this point because he is able to defeat WeirdRat's main army, but WeirdRat also at the same time is going for a lot of value in terms of killing off this third base and going towards his opponent. That aggression really is keeping Visix's mind occupied. Like he does not want to go in for a killing blow if he knows that it's going to mean that his bases are exposed. So it's very interesting to see how much committal they're willing to give. Personally, I would think that even if WeirdRat did have a couple units going on harassing my base, I would have a whole army at his base, and I would think that I could get more value. But something that Visix doesn't even know about, I would think, is the fact that WeirdRat is actually ahead on bases. And Visix, not for the first time, he actually knows about this base. It was spotted before. But Visix is going to do something about it. And so he's going to attack this base. He's going to erase this base from the face of the earth. At the same time, though, WeirdRat is going to be able to do some harassment. And if we take a look at how things look like from Visix's point of view, you can really see that, you know, whenever he's trying to do something, he's just being answered for it. And as a result, he's going to cancel this base. That's good that he canceled it. That meant he gets 75% of the resources back. He's really doing well here. And the fact that WeirdRat did not lose any of his workers from that engagement, obviously this base is now oversaturated, but if we take a look at things from WeirdRat's perspective, things are not all too bad. In fact, I would try and get some more production, like some more barracks going. You know, you've got good upgrades. I'd get another forge, make sure that you can get 2 upgrades at a time. And now, even going for a mage guild for WeirdRat, very exciting. Visix, at the same time, he's got units on the map, but he's constantly having to deal with these aggressing units that are able to just like guerrilla tactics all over the place. They just come out of nowhere and they're able to get a lot of value. But that was very curious to see what those 2 players could see at that time. I think that's something I want to do a little bit more of, to just see what those players see at those critical moments in time as the game goes on. Very exciting. Okay, so like I said, it would be nice to see WeirdRat go for additional unit producing buildings. So he's got 6. He's on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bases. Yeah, you can go up to 7 barracks. I think that would be fair. Usually you want to be on a barrack per base +1 or +2, I guess. And you're late enough in the game that you're making enough resources where you can really take care of 7 barracks well, as long as your workers are spread out efficiently. But as we can see, we're doing another very good job of just running out, doing damage, being able to send one force this way, causing his opponent's army to commit to defending at the other part, and then he would be able to run back again and get more damage going on here. So that would be very interesting. Very interesting indeed. WeirdRat does have mages coming up, so he will be ahead on tech as far as I can see. Yes, he will be ahead of tech, especially when Visixfan is trying to just play this economic game where he's just trying to get his 5th base up and running. Like that's the story for Visixfan at this particular moment. Like he's getting army, he's getting upgrades, but he's also struggling to get this economy up and running. So as a result, WeirdRat might actually be able to outlive his opponent throughout the game. But you know, the thing here is that Visix has had this really large army this entire game, and WeirdRat has not been able to answer it. And you know, he finally might be able to answer this large army with those mages. Actually, looks like they just paused for a second. Yeah, if these mages can get a huge fireball going, but it looks like Visixfan went around and surrounded all those mages. So very curious to see what happens at this point. Like I said earlier, WeirdRat has been doing a very good job of sending these forces out to harass his opponent back, any damage that he did to him. So it looks like Visixfan was forced to pull workers, and it looks like WeirdRat is going to be able to do some worker damage at his opponent's base, and it looks like that was enough to make Visixfan say GG. That was such an intriguing game, because of the philosophy of the players. that was so interesting to me. If Visixfan at any point decided to deal with that, what he could have done is he could have broken his army in half, or however large he needed to break it, whatever portion he needed to break it off, and he could have sent that part of his army to deal with his opponent, while he could have totally wiped out his opponent's base here. I absolutely felt like that entire time Visix was in control of the game, especially with having that large army. But then remember when we went into Visix point of view, what he could see, it definitely felt like he was on the back foot because he was not out on the map. He was, dealing with an army in one place, while another army was, raiding and harassing his fourth base. Um, so very well played by both these opponents. Very well played by WeirdRat to make it seem like his forces were or his tactics were better than his opponent. I thought that opening was very strong by Visix. I think that might be an opening I might have to try out soon, especially if I'm dealing with two den all ins all basically all the time. So it's very interesting to see how that goes. Um, didn't really get to do my logistical things that I usually say at the beginning. If you're still here, you might be gone by this time. But I am trying to give my hand a little bit to video editing, and so I recently downloaded a video editing software. Actually, my family bought it for me, um, and I'm giving that a try. So I'll see if I can, improve the quality of videos that way. I am obviously really new to this, so it'll be very very interesting to see what happens with that. All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching my video. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.